let's talk about alternate hypothesis. First, here is some quick data that shows how quickly people taking drug C and D recovered from the virus. The goal of collecting all the data is to determine whether we should reject or fail to reject the null hypothesis. That is the goal. And what is the null hypothesis? There is no difference in the recovery times of drug C and drug D. Now coming to the subject of alternative hypothesis, in order to decide if we reject or fail to reject, we should not say if we reject or if we accept the null hypothesis. We run our data through a statistical test. We will do a t-test to start with. And there are many tests, analysis of variance, one-tail test, one-sided test, two-sided test, and etc., etc. But I will not carry you by many of those lingos now. But there is a statistical test, and the most common test is called as a t-test, which will compare the two means or two averages. And then the output of the statistical test is a decision to reject or fail to reject. And that in the output, we see what is called as a p-value. Now start taking notes. A statistical test needs three things. How many things? Three things. Of course, it needs data. This is simple. It needs a data. What else it needs? It needs a hypothesis. Particularly, definitely it needs a null hypothesis. That is, we need to reject or fail to reject something. And third one is it needs a alternate hypothesis. And generally, alternate hypothesis is just the opposite of null hypothesis. If null hypothesis says there is no difference, alternate hypothesis says there is a difference. If null hypothesis says they are same, what will alternate hypothesis say? They are not the same, they are different. So in this case, the alternate hypothesis is just simply opposite of the null hypothesis. So now it starts to get a little heavy. The idea is to give a general sense of why alternate hypothesis is important and is used in statistical tests, and not to give the details of how the test works. So how the test works is immaterial, but you have to get a feel of what is null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis.